Another meta-defining set. Another opportunity for Yu-Gi-Oh's greatest deal maker to shill it to his impressionable audience. Let's just check the old business email and... Konami, what's going on? You're telling me you're doing 4 influencer reveals a season, and you're not taking advantage of our community's greatest gaslighter? I even found a home for Horus! And check out all this footage from the 250th YCS. Just look how professional I am! Behold how little of a brand risk I pose! And the worst part of it, AGOV is such an amazing set that you're casting incredible, format-warping cards to the wind for want of a quirky little gamer with a sing-song voice to shill them. Well, don't worry. I won't let you leave that money on the table. Consider this video a proof of concept for our upcoming relationship. Now watch me pitch Pendulum. The Supreme King has reincarnated once more! It's been 6 years since ZARC debuted in paper, and since then, Pendulum has become a behemoth of a brew. Let's take a look at some of the new cards debuting in Age of Overlord, and how they can be integrated into some of our favorite Pendulum strategies. First up, the preeminent Pendulum in the pack, EN001 Supreme King Gate Magician! Astrograph? Chronograph? Never heard of them. This card puts them all to shame. In the Pendulum scale, it prevents your Supreme King ZARC from being banished by your opponent's card effects, and allows you during the main phase to destroy this card, and if you do, place a Supreme King Gate Pendulum monster from your hand or deck into your Pendulum zone, except itself. Now you can only use that effect once per turn, but you're only gonna need it once. Would it shock you to hear that its monster effect is somehow even better? If you have a Supreme King Gate card in your Pendulum zone, except Supreme King Gate Magician, you can send 1 Pendulum Dragon, Xyz Dragon, Synchro Dragon, or Fusion Dragon monster from your hand or extra deck to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is special summoned, you can add a card that mentions Supreme King ZARC from your deck to your hand, except for a spellcaster monster. Now you can only use these effects once per turn. Now if you're me, your first questions when seeing a card this powerful are going to be, what monsters can I scale, and what spells can I search? All in good time. Pendulum requires patience. Next up, Supreme King Dragon Lightwurm. This card's Pendulum effect is if a monster is special summoned, and if you control Supreme King ZARC and another Pendulum monster, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card, then make the level and attribute of either this card or a Pendulum monster you control the same as the level and attribute as the other. You can only use this effect of Supreme King Dragon Lightwurm once per turn. In the monster zone, if this card is normal or special summoned, you could add a face-up Supreme King Dragon or Supreme King Gate Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can Synchro or Xyz summon 1 Supreme King Dragon monster. If a face-up Pendulum monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect while this card is face-up in your extra deck, you can add this card to your hand. Both of these effects can only be activated once per turn. This card's an unthinkably strong target for the Supreme King Gate Magician. Not only is it extension for your Pendulum plays, it's a novel form of interaction as part of an end board. If you summon it from scale on your opponent's turn, you can Synchro summon Supreme King Dragon Clearwing to clear your opponent's entire field. Next, let's see what spells and traps the Supreme King Gate Magician can search. Firstly, bask before the soul of the Supreme Celestial King. You can only activate 1 soul of the Supreme Celestial King per turn. Tribute a spellcaster Pendulum monster with 2500 original attack. Fusion summon Supreme King ZARC from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your hand, deck, extra deck, field, and or graveyard, but its effects are negated unless at least 1 each of your Pendulum Dragon, Xyz Dragon, Synchro Dragon, and Fusion Dragon monsters are currently banished. The astute among you are probably already connecting the dots and aligning the stars. By searching this card, you can summon ZARC on your opponent's turn, in turn triggering Lightwurm's effect and enabling even more delicious destruction. But that's not all the Supreme King can search. Wings of Light says, during the main phase, add a Supreme King Dragon or Supreme King Gate Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand, or if you control Supreme King ZARC, you can special summon it instead. You can only activate 1 Wings of Light per turn. This spell card is an exceptional way to find combo pieces if you lack them, or extend further into a combo if you've got them already. Next up is Pendulum Evolution. You can shuffle a Pendulum monster from your hand into the deck to add a Pendulum monster with 2500 attack and a different name from your deck to your hand. During your main phase, if you special summoned a Pendulum monster from the face down extra deck this turn, you can immediately after this effect resolves, Pendulum summon monsters. You can target 1 Supreme King ZARC you control. This turn it can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. And you can only use each of the effects of Pendulum Evolution once per turn. Given that all the Supreme Dragons have an extra deck Pendulum counterpart, setting this card up is a cinch, and the double Pendulum summon can help you play through effects designed to slow you down, like the ones on Beyond the Pendulum from Dimension Force or Pendulumoon from Cyberstorm Access. Finally, we have the Miracle of the Supreme King. If you control Supreme King ZARC, activate one of these effects, but you can only use each effect of Miracle of the Supreme King once per turn. Destroy one Supreme King ZARC you control, and if you do, special summon one Odd Eyes Pendulum monster or one light Supreme King ZARC from your deck or extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, place a face-up Pendulum monster from your extra deck in your Pendulum zone, or set one quick play spell directly from your deck. This card's amazing. It allows you to access the incredible Pendulum Scale effect of ZARC on your opponent's turn, massively hindering their plays. But wait, what's a light attribute ZARC monster anyway? Allow me to introduce you to the reincarnation of the Supreme King himself, the purified soul of the Shattered Dimensions, Odd Eyes Arc-Ray Dragon! In the Pendulum Scale, if you have 2 cards in your Pendulum zones, you can special summon this card, then apply this effect. Shuffle a card from your Pendulum zone into the deck, then if it was added to your extra deck, you can special summon it, ignoring its summoning conditions. You can only use this effect of Odd Eyes Arc-Ray Dragon once per turn. As a monster, it's a fusion that requires 4 dragon monsters, one apiece of a Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, and Pendulum. And this card is always, even in deck building, treated as the Supreme King himself. This face-down card in the extra deck must first either be fusion summoned or special summoned by tributing one level 12 Dark Supreme King ZARC. If this card is special summoned from the extra deck, you can place any Pendulum monster from your deck in your Pendulum zone. And if this card in the monster zone is destroyed, you can place it in your Pendulum Scale. This card's unbelievable. If your ZARC survives until the end of your turn, then you can summon this from the extra alongside further extension to your Pendulum zone. It's as close as you can get to printing "I win" on a card. So what can you do with these new pieces of support? In my opinion, they slot impressively well into existing Pendulum decks, making use of cards like Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon, Performapal Pendulum Sorcerer, Supreme King Dragon Darkworm, and Harmonizing Magician. But because these cards are so capable of comboing on their own, and can make use of new enablers like Exceed the Pendulum, you no longer need to play a full deck of Pendulums in order to guarantee a competent turn 1 combo. This frees up main deck space for powerful defensive options like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, Infinite Impermanence, and Triple Tactics Thrust. The result is a Pendulum strategy that's just as explosive as previous iterations, but with a much more pronounced ability to win games where it loses the die roll. What about you all? Are you excited for the new Pendulum support? Which of these cards are you looking to pick up in Age of Overlord on store shelves now? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching. See? I can be normal!